Welcome everyone to the Rate Review Committee meeting. Today's Tuesday, January 26, 2021. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Baker issued an emergency order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Public bodies otherwise governed by the OML are temporarily relieved from the requirements that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, as long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. The meeting will be broadcast live on Channel 8 and on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by following the call-in information on the bottom of the live broadcast screen. For the Zoom meeting information relating to remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, or Cindy Knox, IT Director at cknox@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8252 prior to the meeting. And so I will officially call this meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No. I would move
Right,
that
take
we.
it, you're not.
Okay.
Okay. All right then. So first up, our review and approval of the previous meeting minutes from September 29th, 2020. Did anyone have any issues with them?
I have a couple of minor changes. On page 3, near the bottom where it says initial discussion on proposed FY22 water and sewer rates. First paragraph, the last dollar amount, should that be 3.8 million instead of 1.8 million?
Yes.
That's the
It should
capital
be.
request.
Yep, it should be 3.8.
And then the last sentence on that page, I don't know what it means.
Our Scotch list?
Asked with
Me with knee.
Oh.
Yeah, instead of any, it should say ME.
Yes.
Ask. Oh no, wait a minute.
Oh, NO.
Oh, asked with new potential type RO.
Yeah.
No, it should be NEW, I think.
Yeah.
He was asking if there were new potential tie-ins. Are our pipes and plants adequate?
okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Okay, got it. Yep.
That's it. That's all I have.
Okay.
Well,
That. Yep.
if nobody else has any changes, I'll make a motion. We accept the business as noted and changed.
Seconded.
And then just a roll call vote.
I hold on. I can't see who's here. Wait a minute. Okay. Hold on, because I'm not getting. Okay. So I can see who's here. All right, that didn't work. Anyways, all right. Roll call vote. Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Rich, how do you vote?
Aye.
Pam?
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Did I miss anybody? Okay, and then the chair says aye. So meeting minutes approved as amended. Okay. All right, and I lost my agenda. So I'm going to turn it over to Robert to guide us through because I just lost my agenda on my screen.
Okay. Thank you, Selectman Livingston. So the next item on the agenda is a discussion and review of the proposed FY22 water and wastewater capital requests. And I know that there are some members of this committee that are also on the capital planning committee, and the capital planning committee did the lion's share of its work through November and December, making formal recommendations at this time. But we wanted to have a brief overview of specifically the water and wastewater capital and any questions or discussion from this committee, as we all know that is a big piece of that does impact the rates. So with that, I believe that Mark Wetzel has prepared a brief presentation, and if there is an objection, I'll turn it over to him, and if he can navigate us through the presentation.
Sounds good. Mark?
Sounds good. Okay, hold on. I gotta get my screen here. And there, are you guys seeing that?
No.
Mm-mm.
No, okay.
You have to share your screen.
I did, but I picked the wrong thing. Oh, I see. Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. All right. And when Robert said brief, this is basically I just showed the two tables for the water and wastewater capital plan. So we have our usual annual water main replacements. Interesting. We're working on an updated pavement management plan with a software called the Predictor. And basically what we do is we put in all of our pavement conditions, and then we can put in different budgets and see if we're getting ahead of the game or behind the game. So we just finished another training session on that. But I think once we get the pavement management up and running, I think we'll put the water main in there and see if with this funding where we're heading in long term. So we'll probably do like a 20-year. Are we keeping up with what we have to replace, or do we need to start looking at more money? But for now, we've just plugged in, and a lot of this is based on what we can, not necessarily what we can afford, but what we can get out the door on a regular basis, because we don't want to end up with a town that has every street under construction. So far, 250 to 300,000 has been a pretty good. A pretty good amount and then having special appropriations, like right now we just finished the water part of the Groton Shirley water and sewer improvement, and they'll be doing the sewer in the spring. So you can see for this year we've got $350,000. The West Main Street MassWorks 100,000. That's as you probably have seen, it's about I think a $3.3 million project with water. Drainage, sidewalks, curbing, some other stormwater improvements, but we do have a local match on some of that work. So we appropriated, put in $100,000 for the water main. We're going to be basically replacing the water main from Scully Road all the way out to the Verbeck Gate at Devon's.
I just have a quick something to add.
Sure.
The first line says annual water main replacements, $250,000, and Mark's note is to move to the operating budget. We move as much as we can. It varies a little bit from year to year, but it's generally been about 100,000.
Yeah, I think we have 100,000
to the operating budget.
Yeah.
It depends on what's affordable, and if you remember, we still have $6.2 million in spec pond borrowing authorization. The good news is Mark and his crew are successful in getting zero interest mass water pollution trust loan. So that will save hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And there will be, and I don't know how they calculate it, there will be some principal forgiveness on that also. It's they basically, I think they look at how much money they have at the end of the year and who gets what and what the amounts are, but there will be some principal forgiveness. All right, and then for the wastewater division, the big one is we're still doing wastewater treatment plant upgrades. We made a fair amount of progress, but we got a lot of old equipment. The guys were working all day yesterday and most of today on one of the clarifier drives, and that's not even included in the 3.8 million. But we have some old equipment that gets a lot of use, and so that's pretty critical that we make sure that we keep doing that. And then we have our infiltration repairs. We're just about to bid the FY21 project, and we'll just keep plugging away at that also. And then I'd added Central Ave main pumping station valve and piping upgrades. We had a valve failure last year, and these aren't just little valves. These are pretty big check valves, and once they start leaking, you have to shut the pump down, and it's about I think it was about a $30,000 job to replace the one at main pumping station, and now the sister of that one is starting to leak, so we're going to have to replace that. And then we've got a similar situation down at Central Ave, so I put in $100,000 to do the preventive replacements on those. And so that's it. Any other questions on the capital?
I'm going to ask a quick question. I mean,
Okay.
I know you always look for these things, but I'm going to ask anyway. Is there any grants out there? Because, I mean, somebody would ask it anyway, so.
So for wastewater, right now, the grant, there is, as Lisa mentioned on the PFAS treatment for the water, there's a similar program for the wastewater. It probably is not 0% because we're just doing upgrades. It's not a public health issue, so it would be probably a 1.5 or 2%, which has typically not been worth pursuing it because of some of the other issues. But we'll look into that for this funding. The funding year starts usually in August. We also do, for instance, I have a portable generator there. There may be some grant money for that. And we keep our eyes open for any of these other grant programs. And who knows if the new administration is going to come up with an infrastructure plan. One of the things that's good about having these projects underway is that a lot of times when they come up with infrastructure programs for stimulus, for economic stimulus, they want things that are shovel ready. They don't want to spend the first year paying engineers to design things. They want to get the construction crews out and get things done. So if we have stuff that's shovel ready, and like I said, right now the wastewater treatment plant upgrade that we have the capital here for is all designed and ready to go. So we do have some shovel ready things.
Excellent.
And that's it until the next one.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
All right.
So related to that, the next item number 4 on the agenda, is just a brief discussion review of the proposed FY22 water and wastewater operating budgets as prepared by, as submitted by Mark Wetzel and reviewed by Lisa Gabri. And through the chair, I would have Lisa just highlight some of the key points. We sent these to you as well, and they'll be available on the budget webpage for the public. But again, I think as this committee, everybody knows and appreciates, just like with the capital, the operating budget is a process, and we're in that process, but things are subject to potentially change. So with that, Lisa, do you want to maybe just give us an overview of some of the highlights on the operating budget?
Sure. The biggest change, obviously, is he rolled some money in both the water and sewer for a DPW water and sewer superintendent and a billing clerk. I'm sure we're going to get to number 6 to get more details on that information, but he has rolled money in, and that's the biggest change. There's also a minor increase, $1,000 increase in, it looks like, rentals, and a reduction of $3,500 in communication. So in the numbers down below, we've seen yellow. Don't be fooled, Mark just put a formula in there. It's really not a net change. Where the yellow highlighted amounts are, I'll be filling those in. And they will be at least likely more than what they were last year, because except for the debt. That debt sometimes comes down, but not with the debt we have on hand now. So
Yeah.
expect that to go up and indirect costs to go up. Indirect costs of things like health insurance, so that typically goes up.
One thing that maybe I can point out just on how I do the budgets. So basically, there's a whole bunch of columns that you don't see here. So what I look at is what the 3-year average, 5-year average are for some of the line items. If I see something that sticks out, it looks like, wow, it went up a lot over the last year, then I go back through the budget reports and say, oh, that's right, we replaced that valve at the main pumping station, and that had a significant impact on the line item. And then I also take the year to date. You can see there's a column FY21 year to date, and I project that out through the end of the year. So I look at a whole bunch of different numbers and try to come up with a realistic budget based on our past performances and the trends.
I mean, again, other than the two new positions, one full-time, one part-time, the other changes, it actually drops before you go to indirect costs, which are more or less fixed, and the debt, which is fixed.
Okay.
So, remind me, in case I've forgotten this, so we're creating 2 new positions, or these 2 positions are already there?
They're not already there. We discussed them last year. We've been discussing at least the superintendent for a few years, haven't we?
Right,
Mark?
okay.
Yeah.
No, I just want to make sure that it's been a while since we've talked, so.
Yeah, and I have a couple slides I'll present on that
Number
proposal.
6. Yeah.
I will
So
try
we're
to have all the yellow highlighted blocks filled in for our next meeting.
Mhm.
Juggling
Okay.
a lot of balls. We'll see.
So Lisa, Robert, just to sort of summarize, it's safe to say then that the budget actually sort of initially reduces somewhat until we get to the indirect costs. Obviously, indirect costs in the debt there'll be increases. And then we're going to discuss under number 6, the proposal on the positions.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Okay. If there aren't any other questions on the operating budget at this point, and of course, as Lisa mentioned at our next meeting in February, more of this yellow area will be filled in and we'll have an opportunity to further review and discuss. In the meantime, of course, between now and the February meeting, as you're looking at it, if there are questions or concerns or anything, just let myself or Lisa or Mark know, and we'll get you those answers and share them with the whole committee. So related to that, sort of number 5, before we get to 6, number 5 we put on the agenda is sort of an initial discussion on the proposed FY22 water and wastewater rates. And as we discussed in the beginning, this, and everybody knows this is a process. Some of the building blocks, if you will, are beginning to come into place, such as the capital recommendations and so forth. And you have a first look at the operating budget. So again, I sort of threw the
Robert,
chair to Lisa.
sorry.
To
You've
Lisa.
only looked at the water enterprise budget.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of
It's okay.
myself. We'll go to the next. We did water, and here's wastewater. I'm sorry, Lisa. On the
That's
back of
okay.
the operating
It's
budget.
okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, same thing here. The biggest increase is that the position we're going to discuss. There's a minor increase in rentals and what is that? Sludge landfill monitoring. But there's actually some pretty significant reductions. Those were one-time costs that are supposed to happen this year for the Devon's contract consulting and the contract for OPS. What is that again, Mark? OPS consulting? What is OPS, Mark? No, is he me?
No, I'm listening. I'm just trying to think of what it was.
Oh,
I was reading
okay.
something else. Where was that under? Devon's, oh, contract ops.
Yeah.
So basically what we're doing is we're evaluating the option of using contract ops to run the treatment plant.
Oh, right, yes.
And so we have a line item to have a consultant do some of the analysis for us.
I would like to point out that you see the increase of 15,300 in office supplies. Mark actually has a typo under 22 proposed, I think, because he says level funded. I think you put it
Oh.
It's okay.
I missed that one. I usually check all that stuff.
It's okay. And let's see. Devon's flows charges, I think you probably looked at some history based on.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I know there was a high year here and there, but usually it is around 100.
Yeah, it should be getting better because as we're reducing the infiltration, that's primarily when we use it is when we have high flows in the spring, we have to send additional flow to Devon's. We're starting to get that under control. And we also, like, for instance, right now, like I said, we're working on our clarifier. We had to send a little extra flow to Devon's. So it's pretty handy to have that ability when we have to take something out of service.
I don't know if there are any other questions.
Okay.
No, not at this moment.
Thank you both on this. And like I said, we'll have more review and more discussion in February. And also, as you're looking at, if there are questions, please let us know. So to number 5, we just wanted to start an initial.
Oh, we have the solid waste budget also, Robert.
Wait, I just keep getting ahead of myself.
There you
I
go.
apologize.
And again, this is pretty much level funded.
Waste.
We had our purchase of services. We had an issue with rats up there. Believe it or
With
not,
what?
Rats at the.
Oh, rats. I thought you said rots.
With, in the old days, the guys used to go up and shoot them with their 22s, but we don't allow that anymore. So we're having some equipment damage with the rats getting in and eating wires and things. So we have a company now that's putting some rat control traps around, and they come in and do some management there. So that was an increase on that. We also have had some higher than expected vehicle repair, mostly on our the front end loader up there. So I bumped that up a little bit. And
Wait a minute, isn't that a new one?
it's not that
I feel
new.
like we've talked about the front end loader before.
That we just bought a new one for highway, but
Oh, okay.
that one
did
up
a
there,
major-
it was bought before I got here, so it's at least 10 years old.
But the selectmen authorized recently some UDAG money for a fairly large repair. I want to say it was $23,000.
We ended up putting a new engine in it. So.
Okay. So I just want to point out on this sheet that, what do I say? Indirect cost is not on the line it should be. That $500 should be above where it's training and dues. And indirect cost should be 119,161. So I think Mark takes my reports generated out of Muse and then he puts them in his own.
Yeah.
Excel
Right.
Puts
file.
his little
Mine are
spin
actually
on it.
possible. But I think he just missed the
Oh.
line somewhere.
Yeah.
I just want to warn you about that. It's not, we'll correct it and we'll move forward, but. Yeah. But I did not see any significant increases in this budget at all. It was like a few $1,000s, and half of that was a 2% increase per the union contract. We have to recognize that this is a very tight budget. I think Mark has indicated that certain contracts for waste removal are up at the end of this fiscal year. And if it's anything like past years, we may get a fairly significant increase. And if that happens, we'll have to evaluate rate increases.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about recycling. That doesn't seem like that's getting any better either. So, but we are trying. We're trying to put together trying to get a number of towns to put together the bids for the waste removal and recycling, and then you might get a little better number if it's a bigger volume.
Right.
What about the Devon's agreement? Where are we with that?
That's sewer you're talking now.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. We can talk about it. It's not, I don't see. Yeah, I don't see it on the agenda, so sure.
So if Selectman Livingston, the plan is to come to the select board, your meeting next week, with a proposal to appoint the negotiating committee or the negotiating team
Okay.
that Mark put together, and then begin to move forward with that. As everybody knows, we've discussed, in addition to the negotiating team, if and when needed, as far as any consultants, we have factored that in moving forward. Also have factored in using town council when needed on the legal end. And then I envision having periodic updates to the select board and to the rate review committee. And when we do that, as many of you know, it would be under executive session because it is a contractual agreement. And I envision having updates to the rate review and to the select board as we move through the process. But we definitely want to start that, as we've said, sooner than later, as it expires this December of 2021.
Okay, thank you. I got to ask it when I think it, Lisa.
Sure.
Okay. I think
I
we're
have a
done with
question.
operating budgets now, Robert.
Mr. Scotchless, did you have a question?
I do. Have we started getting money for the solid waste out of the solar panels?
Yes.
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 Yeah, we've gotten 2 payments so far.
How much, Mark?
Don't quote me on this. It's around 25,000
Per quarter, per month? What is that?
per year.
For you?
Yeah.
We have an escalation, so it goes up every year. It's usually due, I believe, in November.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any
Okay.
further questions? I think now we can go to wherever Robert's been trying to go for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's now safe for me to cross the street. Thank you, Selectman Livingston. To number 5, we just want to start an initial discussion on the water and wastewater rates. And I don't know if Mark or Lisa want to kick that off. Again, this is one of our major responsibilities, obviously, to make the appropriate recommendation to the select board, usually in March, beginning of April at the latest. And this year, town meeting by the bylaw change is April 26th, the last Monday in April, but sort of start that discussion. So Mark or Lisa, you want to just send me initial thoughts or initial concerns or observations, and then other folks, I'm sure, have maybe some questions or concerns as well with the rates.
So just because we pretty much just recently got this information, and I have not, we have a rate model that we've used for several years now, and it's a multiple year rate model. I have not had the time to input this information into the rate model. My gut feeling is both water and sewer will need to have rate increases, mostly driven by the capital improvements that we've seen for PFAS, for the water department, and for the wastewater treatment plant improvements. Mark, would you like to add to that?
Just, a couple things. One of the things that, and I keep track on the PFAS, that's turning into, for the treatment at both wells and the investigations and everything, it's turning into about a $12 million expense, of which, right now we have probably about almost 5 million of that is grants, and the rest is a low interest loan. So, given that fact, I think we're doing a good job of keeping the rates relatively stable with some pretty huge capital expenses that no one else is having to deal with. A couple other things that factor into this. We haven't really done a good analysis of what our impacts of the COVID are on our water use. You know, we have more people at home, so you'd think that maybe they're using more water because instead of flushing the toilet at work, they're flushing the toilet at home. But then again, they may not be taking showers before they go to work. So we haven't really looked at that, but our real big users are Nasoya and CPF and Epic. And lately they've been using a lot more water, and some of that is related to just, you know, I know with CPF that they had one of the other big Pepsi bottling plants in New York had to shut down because of COVID contamination. So the air plant picked it up. And the soya has been using a lot more water. Their product is in big demand. And then the other thing that'll factor into it, you know, with the last 2 summers, we've had an outdoor water irrigation water ban. So that does affect our revenue quite a bit. So hopefully I'm at this point not planning on implementing an outdoor water ban this year because we do have the Grove Pond back in full service. So those are things that we can look at on water revenue that might improve the rate impact a little bit.
And it's been a while since we've had a consultant come in and work with Pam on the consumptions, the billable consumption. So it may be getting time to do that again. Model for especially the consumption part of the model. Because obviously if the consumption's off, then the rates we come up with are going to be off. So it all has to be reasonable and work well together.
Through the chair, this is Robert. Mark and Lisa, is it fair to say that our next scheduled meeting is February 23rd? By then, would we have more of a sense? And I know you just got a lot of this information, and I fully understand and appreciate there's a lot of work involved with that to go through the model. But on the 23rd, do you think we'd be in a position to begin to look at some specifics?
The 23rd of February?
February.
Yeah, it's probably gonna smash up against my MEMA deadline for COVID, whatever. But you know, we give it a try, and I will try my best, and I'm usually fairly good at it. And we can at least have some options for discussion, I think.
Yeah. That would be good. Any other questions on the initial discussion on the rate? I'll just add, and I know we've talked about it, and we're very aware of this. I mean, obviously the challenge we have is continuing the operations of both the water and wastewater infrastructure, continuing those operations, and the challenge of developing a rate also that is acceptable and reasonable. And we have the added challenge, as everybody knows, with the COVID-19 pandemic, in that ultimately, you know, going into town meeting and so forth, there is a lot of folks that are very concerned due to the impacts of COVID across the board. So what I'm getting at is the climate in terms of nobody likes a rate increase, as we've all said. It's sort of like a necessary evil. The challenge is more than ever this year with everything else that's going on. So I know that we will do our best and have a robust discussion about any said recommendations going to the select board once we have all the information.
And keep in mind that we don't look at 1 year alone.
Right.
the rate model goes out at least 5 years. So we roll the whole 5-year capital plan from Mark that's been approved by the capital planning committee into the rate model. And really our goal has been to have relatively reasonable increases so that we can get to the end of that 5-year mark and still have like a 2% increase or a 3% increase year over year, rather than have a steep increase one year and nothing the next year. I think it's more reasonable to the public to expect that kind of increase than a huge jump. So we do our best to keep it with as much as we can within what we had anticipated it would be.
Great. Yeah, I think for February 23rd, if possible, I think if we can have some potential, even if they're initial / draft discussion about some potential options and ways of looking at this, I think that would be very helpful.
Robert, could I ask you a question? Is the public hearing on this scheduled yet?
It has not been scheduled yet. Selectman Livingston and I will talk with the select board about that. The challenge we have, as you know, Lisa, across the board is with this year, the bylaw change puts the town meeting on April 26th, which moves everything up about 2 weeks. So I think that definitely we should discuss. That's a good topic for new business today and for the next agenda, talk about the public hearing and the details and the date for the next meeting about scheduling that.
I agree.
Anything else on number 5 for now? If not, we'll move to number 6. And I know that the superintendent has a couple of slides for this to refresh everybody's memory. And we've talked about this conceptually, is the concept of 2 proposed positions. One, a water and sewer superintendent that would report to the DPW superintendent. And secondly, as we've discussed, and Pam Martin does an excellent job and has done an excellent job and continues to on water and sewer billing. As we realized, Pam is all things water and sewer billing. And as we move forward, having sort of a backup or some assistance to that in case, Pam is out, which Pam is hardly ever out. But what I'm saying is, as far as an organizational planning, we talked about having, I'm going to call it a part-time position, for lack of a better word at this point, so a part-time individual for water and sewer billing that could assist Pam, but also cover for Pam or cover as we move, forward. So those are sort of the 2 things. I'm going to turn it over to Mark. As we've mentioned, if these 2 proposals move forward, the lion's share of the cost impact is in the water and sewer enterprise funds and minimal on the general fund impact. And what we're hoping is to get a sense from the committee today of sort of a green light on this recommendation. Of course, this recommendation would be included in our report and discussion at the public hearing for the rates with the select board. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mark, and then we'll open it up to questions, comments, concerns. Mark?
Great, thanks. I just wanted to point out that this photo I have here is here's the new PFAS facility at the Grove Pond Treatment Plant. So it's all done, ready, looking good. If you haven't been to the the water treatment plant and the wastewater treatment plant, you can see we have a lot of infrastructure at these locations. So we have big buildings, a lot of equipment inside, a lot of mechanical stuff, a lot of moving parts. So it's quite an operation. Let's see what's going on here. Sharing. There we go. So just a little bit of overview on what we do with our water and wastewater divisions. So Ayer is pretty unique for this area of Massachusetts. We provide water to 95% of the town and wastewater collection and treatment to 90% of the town. Makes the town pretty attractive for development, but it is a big impact on the community with respect to rates. The water budget's about $2.3 million a year, and the wastewater is about 3.4. So you can see that we have a pretty big combined budget. We have a total of 11 staff in the two plants, and we have 5 wells and 2 water treatment plants for the water system. We have 18 wastewater pumping stations scattered throughout town, and we have an advanced wastewater treatment plant. And when I say advanced, that provides what we call tertiary treatment to remove the nutrients. This is a big part of my job right now, and Dan also. Dan does some of this stuff, but we're regulated by DEP and EPA. So every month we have to fill out monthly water chemical usages at our treatment plants, and so that involves a total of 4 different chemicals at 2 different plants. So we have to fill those reports in. We do monthly water quality sampling as well as quarterly and biannually and annually, and then we have to do flow reports for both water and wastewater. We just started doing monthly and quarterly PFAS sampling and reporting. I figured out that the Army's been doing it up till now, but I figured out that's going to cost us probably about $50,000 a year to do that sampling. I've applied for some DEP grants to cover some of that cost. We also have to do lead and copper testing. I don't know if anybody here is I don't think anyone here is one of our lead and copper sampling people, but basically what we have to do is distribute sampling bottles out to homeowners. They take a first flush in the morning, and then we pick them up, and that's done twice a year, and it requires going through all the results, tabulating all the results, sending letters out to everybody, and then posting all the information with the DEP. We have to send an annual water quality report, an annual water statistics report, an annual pre-treatment report for our wastewater pre-treatment, an annual sewer collection system report, and then we have sanitary site inspections on both water and wastewater done by the state or the EPA. So there's a lot of regulations that we have to follow, and if you don't comply completely, then you get a little nasty note. And I'll give you an example. I sent in my certification that I did my water quality report. I sent it in a day late. We did everything on time, sent out to everybody on time and everything, but I sent the letter to the state that said we had done it on time. I sent that letter a day late, and we got a notice of non-compliance. So they like to pick on that. Then operations management, what I foresee the water and wastewater superintendent doing is, and we both Dan and I factored this stuff into most of our daily routines, but what ends up happening is you always have some other fire to put out or something else that doesn't get done, and we have to prioritize things. So it doesn't always get done perfectly. We do daily, weekly, and monthly work task management. We have what's called a computer maintenance and management system. So every time we work on a piece of equipment, we're supposed to put it into a computer system so we can track what the assets are costing us, what we have to do for scheduled maintenance. And it's a great tool, but it's really hard to keep up with. There's a lot of data to put in. Budget management, capital project management. As I said, we've got right now we've got Grove Pond finishing up. We've got another $5.5 million treatment plant being constructed at Spec Pond. We've got the ongoing wastewater projects as well as water mains and some of the other capital projects. Regulatory reports and compliance, construction oversight, emergency response. There's both planning for emergency response and emergencies. We have to have a update our emergency response plan. There's a new one due this year. as well as when we have water main breaks or equipment failures, and someone has to manage that response. We've done a lot with energy management. We've reduced the energy usage at the pumping stations and treatment plants quite a bit. And then we have a lot of procurement with getting contractors and service companies and buying equipment and materials. So there's a lot that goes into running the water and wastewater systems. So why is this position needed? As I mentioned, we have an aging infrastructure. We have lots of capital improvements and increased maintenance. We have increased regulatory requirements and reporting. Aging workforce, that's one of the reasons we're looking at contract operations, is it's hard to find a qualified operator. And we have a number of retirements that we've lost 2 this past year, and we've got a few more coming up in the next couple of years. Capital and operating budget management. As I mentioned, we will look at contract operations. If we do that, then we definitely need someone to manage the contract operations. Optimizing our operations, how do we do things more efficiently and reduce some costs or provide better service? What are grant funding sources out there? And then doing public outreach and customer service. So what I looked at, I think when I first talked to Robert, I looked around from different towns that have been advertising for this position and what they were paying advertising. And so I went through our, we have a position grading system. And so I went through that and came up with a grade 14, which has a salary range depending on the step of 85,000 to 108,000, which is about what I'd found other towns were paying. Some of them were a little bit higher, but I think that's a pretty good range for that position. The assistant water and sewer billing clerk we're proposing would be a part-time, up to 20 hours per week, paid through water and wastewater enterprise fund budgets. Water and sewer bills are sent out monthly. Even though we bill quarterly, we have a rolling billing system, which works out to about 1,200 bills per month. And between water and sewer, we generate about 5.7 million in revenue. And it's currently done by Pam, and she has some backup support, primarily for doing final bills and things like that, but not if Pam failed to show up and we had to send bills out, we might have to struggle a little bit. The other thing that this position will do, it'll allow Pam to do more of the other business practices with assisting with procurement and managing some of our operations. For instance, helping with procuring the solid waste contracts, things like that. And for this position, I would recommend a grade 3 classification, looking at the clerical union classifications. This is about where this fits in. And so that's a pay range of 21.28 to 27.19 per hour for FY22. So what's next? I think we need to evaluate the impact of these positions on the water and sewer rates. I think when you're looking at the size of the budgets and the amount of increase, that it's probably going to be fairly minimal. And I think once someone gets in there and up to speed, you'll see some payback on the superintendent position. Then I would have this rate committee review and recommend support of the positions. We'll then include it in the FY22 budgets and then approved by the select board and the finance committee. I don't know if there's anything else that we need to go through, Robert.
No, Mark, I appreciate that overview, and thank you. And I think for our purposes today, we were looking to get some input and direction from the committee as far as moving forward with this. As Mark mentioned, in terms of the next steps, we would like to obviously have the Finance Committee and the Select Board obviously review and offer any input. Ultimately, if it's to move forward, it would be included in the budget, as Mark mentioned, with the Select Board approving the budget for placement on the warrant, and finally, of course, town meeting approving it. So with that, questions, thoughts?
So, I mean, as far as the two new positions go, let me be clear. I'm for the positions. I think that they're needed. However, I have to say that, you know, due to the circumstances that we've been living in the past year, reality is it's probably going to be a few more months, is how this could negatively impact the residents. It is kind of a catch-22, because by having these positions filled, that also increases, you know, services to the residents. But at the same token, it could end up impacting their wallet. And, you know, so what I'm saying is that I am not saying no, but I am saying that I really want to be sure that whatever recommendation this committee makes to the select board, that, I mean, we are solid on that. And that maybe if we need to even think about, should there just be maybe one of the two positions, and kind of lay that out, because for all we know, the other members on the select board, they may not agree to two, but they might agree to one. You know, we don't know until we've talked to them. Okay. So that's all I'm saying, is that we're really in kind of, you know, a tight spot here all around. So I think we just need to have a plan that if for some reason it's just one position versus two, that we know what we're doing. Those are my concerns. Those are my concerns.
Thank you. And noted, absolutely. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Mark, you unmuted. No? Okay.
Any full red light objections? Stop, don't proceed. I'm thinking in terms of the next steps. Obviously, Mark Wetzel's often before the select board. So in the near future, and Janice will have obviously heard this presentation, but sort of, you know, touching base with the select board with the general proposal to get some initial thoughts. Mark Smith would, you know, come to the finance committee next meeting, you know, and make the presentation, get some thoughts. So that's sort of where we're at. But and Janice made some good points about the situation we're in and the optics and what have you with that. Other concerns, questions, objections?
I have one.
Go ahead, Mr. Scotchless.
It's not an objection to it, but how is this going to be built on the water and sewer rates? Is it going to be an increase? It has to be an increase, but I mean, we're already increasing for services for the water and sewer. Now we're going to have to pay for salaries. Can anybody say something about that?
Okay, so the question is really, how will this obviously impact the rates? Lisa or Mark?
Oh, well, it's an increase to the operating budget, so it's obviously going to push the rates. It's going to be one of the things that push the rates. In my opinion, the capital improvements are going to push them more than that. But we could, I could probably run a scenario with the positions in it and without the positions in it, so that you can see the impact on the rates.
That would be good.
And then we have so in the end, the town, if we did have those two positions, we would have a DPW superintendent, a water and sewer superintendent, and a town engineer, right?
Yeah.
Again, not bad
That's a pretty
idea.
good level of professional staff for this town, but then again, we have a lot of infrastructure needs.
And again, you know, having the positions would benefit the town in the long run.
Oh, yeah.
But right now, it's kind of hard to see the long run due to the mess we're in too. So like I said, this is like one of those catch-22s, because we do want to keep building for the future, but at the same time, you know, we don't want to make people cry because, you know, we've gone ahead with this with all that's going on and we don't know what day this is all going to end. So having the two scenarios presented, you know, it's really a tough time to be making these types of decisions that will benefit, but in the short term could really harm. So.
And I'm sure Mark can make the case for the DPW water and sewer superintendent, but my feeling is I'm not going to be here that long, and I have a staff of me.
You mean
and one
because you're
person.
retiring,
So
not because
if-
you're retiring, right?
Yes. As far as I know. But that water and sewer billing backup, I think, is important because there's nobody else here trained to do that. And
I'm very concerned
$6
about.
million in money that, you know, you're taking a chance of not receiving. It could impact very negatively in a very short time frame.
One of the
Yeah.
one
Mark.
of the conversations that was had before was the lack of interest in individuals wanting to work for towns. And so from my perspective, if you have these mid-level positions, it gives somebody an opportunity then to be able to know that, hey, when the DPW superintendent gets ready to retire, here you could have a internal, I don't want to say competition, but there's, you could promote from within. And if they see that as a good potential, then you're going to get the people, you're going to have them supporting you very well and wanting to do the work because they want to compete for a promotion, et cetera, et cetera. And just like anything else, if you're not at least maybe a half a person trained in all your functions across the organization, and something happens to one person, that in itself could be devastating to the overall business venture of the organization. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm a believer in both of those positions for
Me too.
long-term, I guess, stability goals. It's going to hurt initially because of rate increases. But again, sometimes I take the pay me now or pay me later, but you're going to have to end up paying me sooner or later. So I like to be convinced that we can take care of ourselves functionally in the future.
And Mark, if I could add into that, so as most of you probably know, that my contract is up at the end of this fiscal year. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing after that, but my background prior to coming here was a water and wastewater consulting engineer. So a lot of this stuff that we do at the Public Works is kind of second nature to me, was related to water and wastewater. Prior to me getting here, we had relied on consultants a lot to do actually things that a water superintendent would do, reviewing subdivision designs, looking at impacts on water service, and actually some of the consultants' recommendations I think were bad recommendations, and I reversed some of those, so I think having someone in the department who has that specialty knowledge of water and wastewater is pretty important to the efficiency of the town. The other thing also is, Rick Lindy was our water foreman for 20 something years, and he retired last summer. And so the guys that we have are very competent, but they still have a lot of questions that they come to me. So we need some continuity in the operations also.
Mhm.
Oh, I agree. I'm not, like I said, I'm not against these, but you know, we have to have the full-fledged conversation. So,
So why don't we do this in terms of next steps? And again, a special thanks to Mark Wetzel for putting it all together, including the classification, the job description, and so forth. I know a lot of work went into it. So I think what I would propose in terms of next steps, as Janice mentioned and Lisa, one is let's look at, we'll develop the two scenarios. In other words, so people can see, and as Rich Scotchless asked as well, we'll prepare without it, with them, and without it, in a hybrid. And then why don't Mark Wetzel and I, prepare to go to the select board. Great to have Janice here, but go to the full board with the general presentation to sort of get a sense of where they're at, and the same with the FinCom. And then when we come back in February, we can further discuss, because it sounds like what I'm hearing, there is support, there is sort of a green light. Of course, the challenge is with the rates and, as Janice mentioned, the reality of the world we're in right now. So I think we have a good plan moving forward.
yeah, and I like, Mark, you did a great job with the presentation and everything. If I was to, add anything to the presentation, is to kind of add what Mark Smith was saying about, really looking forward to the future and everything and the benefits.
Okay. Sort of our last item before we get into new business, and I know we're coming up on the hour. Number 7 was an update on transfer station revenues. As this committee knows, and Lisa mentioned it again at the beginning of our meeting, this has always been sort of a tight enterprise fund, if you will. When we met in the fall, the decision was made to defer and hold off on any rate increases, given the COVID-19 realities, which we have done, with the understanding we would monitor and revisit in the spring. So just briefly for everybody's benefit, I don't know, maybe Mark or Lisa, if there's just a brief update on the transfer station revenues as they sort of stand today.
Well, I ran a report through period 6, a historical report through December for each of the past 4 years and this year. For a while, I had some concerns about bad tag revenues because they were slow coming in. It was an issue with a local distributor. But it looks like they have pretty much caught up. Do you agree, Pam? Yeah. So the question is in the expense end, it looks like it's running pretty much on target. The only concern I have is, looks like recycling supplies, the bags themselves.
Yeah. Those,
It's like $1,300. That's all
Yeah.
the purchase to date. So I'm figuring you must have been working off last year's inventory because you had.
yeah, we usually look at the end of the year and stock up on inventory if we can. So we did have a fairly new inventory, and I just got a report today I didn't look at on bags. I don't know if you did, Pam, but so I don't know but we usually do a big order before the end of the fiscal year with the bag.
I would caution you about that big ordering only because that budget's so tight. So make sure that there's funds.
No, we're pretty close. I check that pretty closely before we do that. And then as far as selling permits, last year we sold through the calendar year 1,418. Right now we're at 1,031. So we're a little behind, but that's pretty typical for this time of year that we'll catch up by the end of the year. Looking at the revenue generated from selling permits, Last year we were about 106,000 for the year, and right now we're at about 80,000.
Okay. Any questions? And again, we'll have another update, obviously, at our February meeting. We just want to keep this issue of the update of the revenues and monitoring these revenues on the forefront as we move forward.
No questions.
Okay. Any new business for today? Okay. Our next meeting is Tuesday, February 23rd at 4 p.m. As we get closer, as I always do, I'll send out a reminder and also ask if there are any agenda items. We sort of have a sense of the agenda based on today's discussion, and then we'll get those materials out to everybody in advance. Obviously, as information becomes available that's pertinent or of any issues, we know how to find everybody, and we'll keep everybody informed as we move forward.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
The meeting.
Okay, I think somebody seconded it. Okay. So roll call vote. Mark Smith,
Aye.
Wetzel,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Pam,
Aye.
Robert,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and the chair says aye. Good night, everyone. See you next
Good night.
month.